The palace of the Volanthi Empire stood like a mountain of white crystal against the purple sky. Its towers reached toward the stars that the Volanthi had ruled for 10,000 years. But inside those beautiful walls, death walked quietly through every hall. Captain Daniel Cole stood at the window of his small room and watched the sun set over the alien city. He had lived here for 3 years now, serving as humanity's only ambassador to the Volanthi Empire. 3 years of learning their language, their customs, their strange and beautiful ways. 3 years of earning their trust, one small step at a time. The Volanthi were not like humans. They were taller, thinner, with skin the color of pale silver and eyes that glowed softly in the dark. They lived for centuries and moved through the world with a grace that made humans look clumsy. They had built an empire across 40 star systems before humans had learned to make fire. And now they were dying. The withering had come from nowhere. No one knew where it started or how it spread. It moved slowly at first, dimming the light in Volanthi eyes, weakening their bodies bit by bit. Then it took them completely. Millions had died already. Millions more would follow. The greatest doctors in the empire had found no cure, no treatment, no hope. Daniel had watched friends die from it. The Volanthi, who had welcomed him, taught him, shown him kindness when others saw him as a primitive creature from a primitive world. He had held their hands as the light left their eyes. He had spoken words of comfort in a language that was not his own. A soft chime sounded at his door. Daniel turned from the window. "Enter," he said in the Volanthi tongue. The door slid open and a palace servant stepped inside. She was young, her silver skin still bright, her glowing eyes still strong. But fear lived in those eyes now. Fear lived in everyone's eyes these days. "Ambassador Cole," she said, bowing her head. "The Queen requests your presence, immediately, in her private chambers." Daniel felt his heart stop for a moment. In 3 years, no human had ever been invited to the Queen's private chambers. The Queen herself, Seraphine Valkyra, had spoken to him only at formal events and diplomatic meetings. She was kind but distant, as queens had to be. Did she say why? Daniel asked that the servant shook her head. She said only that you must come now, and that you must tell no one. Daniel followed the servant through the winding halls of the palace. They passed guards who looked at him with suspicion and courtiers who whispered behind their hands. Humans were still new to the galactic community. Many Volanthi still saw them as barbarians who had stumbled into space by accident. The servant stopped before a door of pure white stone. She placed her hand on a panel and the door opened without a sound. "The Queen waits inside," she said. "Go alone." Daniel stepped through the door and into a room filled with soft light. The walls were covered with images of stars and planets, maps of an empire that was slowly dying. In the center of the room stood a bed made of crystal, and on that bed lay Queen Seraphine Valkyra. Daniel had seen the Queen many times. She had always been beautiful, powerful, her presence filling any room she entered. But the woman on the bed was thin and weak. The glow in her eyes flickered like a candle in the wind. The withering had found her too. "Ambassador Cole," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you for coming." Daniel walked to her bedside and knelt. "Your Majesty, I did not know you were ill." "No one knows," she said. "I have hidden it as long as I could, but I cannot hide it anymore. I have hours left, perhaps less." Daniel felt grief rise in his chest. The Queen had shown him small kindnesses over the years. A warm word here, a gentle smile there. She had defended humans when others called them dangerous. She had given them a chance to prove themselves. "I'm sorry," he said. "I am so sorry." The Queen raised her hand slowly and pointed to a corner of the room. There, sitting in a small chair, was a child. A Volanthi girl with wide, frightened eyes and silver hair that fell past her shoulders. She could not have been more than 12 cycles old, which was like 8 years for a human. She was small and fragile and completely terrified. "My daughter," the queen said. "Lyris, the last of my blood. The only heir to 40 star systems." Daniel looked at the child. She stared back at him with eyes that held too much fear for someone so young. "Your Majesty," Daniel said carefully. "Why have you called me here?" The queen closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them again, tears ran down her silver cheeks. "High Counselor Draveth," she whispered. "He has been waiting for this day, waiting for me to die. When I am gone, he will claim regency over my daughter. He will control her, use her, marry her to his son when she comes of age. He will have everything he wants, and my daughter will have nothing, not even her freedom." Daniel understood. He had watched Draveth in court meetings. The High Counselor smiled too much and spoke too sweetly. His eyes were cold and calculating. Daniel had seen men like him before. They existed in every species, on every world. "Can no one stop him?" Daniel asked. "No one with the power to do so will try," the queen said. "The other counselors are afraid of him. Some have already joined his side. My loyal supporters are few and weak. When I die, Draveth will move quickly. My daughter will be in his hands before morning." "Then what can I do?" Daniel asked. "I am just a human ambassador. I have no power here." The queen reached out and took his hand. Her fingers were cold, but her grip was surprisingly strong. "You are the only one I trust," she said. "You are the only one who has nothing to gain from my daughter's fate. You have been kind to my people when others were cruel. You have shown respect when others showed contempt. I have watched you, Daniel Cole. I have seen who you are." She turned her head toward the corner. "Lyris, come here." The child stood slowly and walked to the bed. She moved like a frightened animal, ready to run at any moment. The queen took her daughter's hand and placed it in Daniel's. "Ambassador Cole," she said, her voice growing weaker, "I give you my daughter, not as property, but as trust. Take care, O." The words stopped. The light in her eyes flickered once and then went dark. The queen of 40 star systems, ruler of the Volanti Empire, lay still and silent on her crystal bed. Daniel looked down at the small hand in his own. The princess was crying without sound, tears running down her silver cheeks. She did not pull away from him. She had nowhere else to go. "Take care of her," Daniel whispered, finishing the words the queen could not. "I understand." In the distance, an alarm began to sound. Someone had found out. The palace would soon be filled with chaos and danger. Daniel Cole stood up, still holding the princess's hand. He was a human alone in an alien empire, holding a dying wish and a frightened child. He had no idea what to do next. But he knew one thing with complete certainty. He would keep his promise. The alarm echoed through the palace like a scream. Guards ran through the halls, their boots loud on the crystal floors. Servants rushed from room to room, spreading the news that everyone had feared. The queen was dead. Daniel moved quickly through the chaos, holding Princess Lyris close to his side. The child had not spoken since her mother died. She walked in silence, her glowing eyes empty and distant. Daniel knew that look. He had seen it on the faces of children in war zones back on Earth. The look of someone who had lost everything. He needed to find somewhere safe, somewhere to think. But in a palace full of enemies, there was no such place. An old woman stepped out of a doorway and blocked his path. She was Volanti, ancient and bent with age, her silver skin thin as paper. But her eyes were sharp and clear. "Ambassador Cole," she said quietly. "Follow me, quickly." Daniel hesitated. He did not know this woman. He could not trust anyone. "I am Advisor Melindra," she said. "I served the queen since before her daughter was born. I know what she asked of you. I heard everything through the door. Daniel looked into her eyes and saw truth there. And grief. This old woman had loved her queen. Where are we going? He asked. My chambers. They will not think to look for you there. Not yet. They moved through hidden passages and narrow stairs that Daniel had never seen before. The palace was like a maze, full of secrets that only those who had lived there for centuries could know. After what felt like hours, they reached a small room filled with books and old furniture. Melindra closed the door and locked it with a code. Sit, she said. Both of you. We do not have much time. Daniel helped Lyris into a chair. The princess stared at nothing, her hands folded in her lap. She had stopped crying, but Daniel was not sure if that was better or worse. High Counselor Draveth will come for her, Melindra said. He has been planning this for years. His spies are everywhere. He probably knew the queen was dying before she did. What does he want? Daniel asked. Power. The throne. Everything the queen had. Melindra's voice was bitter. He will claim regency over the princess. He will say it is for her protection. But we both know what he really wants. Control of the empire. Daniel ran his hands through his hair. I told the queen I would protect her daughter. But I am just one human. I have no army, no political power, no allies except you. You have something better, Melindra said. The queen's dying words. In Volanthi law, the final command of a dying monarch carries great weight. She gave you guardianship of the princess in front of a witness. In front of Lyris herself. Will that be enough? It might slow Draveth down. Force him to work through legal channels instead of simply taking the child. But he will find a way around it eventually. He always does. A soft chime came from Daniel's pocket. He pulled out his communication device and saw a message from Commander Lisa Tran of the human vessel Steadfast. It was humanity's only ship in Volanthi space, orbiting high above the planet. He opened the channel. Commander, this is Cole. Daniel, what is happening down there? Lisa's voice was tense. We are picking up emergency signals from the palace. Reports of the queen's death. The reports are true. The queen is dead. And I have a serious problem. He explained everything quickly. The dying wish, the princess, Draveth's plans. Lisa listened in silence. Daniel, she said when he finished. This is way above my authority. Taking the princess off-world could start a war between humanity and the Volanthi Empire. I know. The smart thing to do is hand her over and let the Volanthi sort out their own. Politics, I know that too. There was a long pause. But you are not going to do the smart thing, are you? Daniel looked at Lyris. The child had turned her head slightly, listening to the human words she did not understand. Her eyes met his, and in them he saw a question, a desperate hope. No, Daniel said. I am not. Lisa sighed. Then I will keep the Steadfast ready. If you need extraction, call me. I will figure out the politics later. Thank you, Commander. Do not thank me yet. Just keep that child safe. The communication ended. Daniel put the device away and knelt in front of Lyris. I do not know if you understand me, he said in the Volanthi language. But I want you to know something. I am not going to leave you. I am not going to let anyone hurt you. Your mother trusted me, and I will not fail her. Lyris stared at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, she reached out and touched his face. Her fingers traced the rough skin, the short hair, all the ways he was different from her people. You are strange, she whispered. Her voice was small and broken. Why would my mother trust someone so strange? I do not know, Daniel admitted. But she did, and I will prove that she was right. A loud bang echoed from somewhere in the palace. Shouts followed, then the sound of marching feet. Melindra moved to a small window and looked out. Her face grew pale. "Draveth's soldiers," she said. "They are searching the palace. They will be here within the hour." Daniel stood up. "Then we need to move." "Where?" Melindra asked. "There is nowhere in this palace that Draveth cannot reach." Daniel looked around the room, thinking fast. The lower levels, the maintenance tunnels, the places where the servants work and the nobles never go. That is a maze down there. We could get lost for days. Better lost than caught. He held out his hand to Lyris. The princess looked at it for a moment, then took it and stood. "What about you?" Daniel asked Melindra. The old woman shook her head. "I would only slow you down. And someone needs to stay behind and give you time. I will tell them I saw you running toward the eastern wing. It will confuse them. They will punish you for lying." Melindra smiled sadly. "I am old, Ambassador. I have lived a long life. But that child has barely begun hers. Go. Protect her as you promised." Daniel wanted to argue, but there was no time. He nodded once, then led Lyris to a hidden door behind a bookshelf. As they stepped into the darkness beyond, he heard Melindra's voice one last time. "May the stars guide you, human. You carry the future of our empire in your hands." The door closed behind them. Daniel and Lyris stood in complete darkness, surrounded by the hum of ancient machines. "I cannot see," Lyris whispered. Daniel activated a small light on his wrist. It pushed back the shadows just enough to see the tunnel ahead. "Stay close to me," he said. "Do not let go of my hand." They began to walk into the unknown, a human and an alien child, hunted by an empire. Behind them, the sounds of soldiers grew louder. The tunnels beneath the palace were old. Older than the queen, older than her grandmother, older than anyone could remember. They had been built to carry water and power to the great halls above, but now they were mostly forgotten. Only the lowest servants used them anymore. Daniel and Lyris moved through the darkness for hours. The small light on Daniel's wrist was barely enough to see, but it was all they had. The princess never complained, never asked to stop and rest. She just held his hand and followed wherever he led. They found a small room filled with old machines that no longer worked. It was dusty and cold, but it was hidden. Daniel decided they would rest there until he could figure out what to do next. Lyris sat on the floor and pulled her knees to her chest. She looked so small in the dim light, so fragile. "Are you hungry?" Daniel asked, sitting down beside her. She shook her head. "You need to eat something. You need your strength." "I am not hungry," she said. "I do not think I will ever be hungry again." Daniel understood. Grief did that to people. It took away the simple needs, the simple wants. It left only emptiness. He had brought a small pack of supplies with him. Emergency rations that humans carried, though he was not sure if Volanthi could eat them. He pulled out a water container and held it out to her. "At least drink," he said. "Please." Lyris took the container and drank a little. Then she handed it back and returned to staring at the floor. They sat in silence for a long time. Finally, Lyris spoke. "Why did my mother choose you?" Daniel looked at her. "I do not know. You are a human. You are not one of us. You have no power, no army, no ships. You cannot even breathe our air without that machine on your chest." She pointed to the small device that filtered the atmosphere for his human lungs. "All of that is true," Daniel said. "Then why?" "There were Volanthi who loved my mother. Volanthi who would have protected me with their lives. Why did she give me to a stranger?" Daniel thought about the question. He had been asking himself the same thing since the queen died. "Maybe that is exactly why," he said slowly. "The Volanthi who loved your mother, the ones who would have protected you, they are all part of your world. They have families, positions, things they could lose. Draveth can threaten them, bribe them, control them. But I have nothing here. Nothing to lose, nothing to protect except you. Maybe your mother knew that makes me harder to break. Lyris looked at him with her glowing eyes. Do you really have nothing? I have a ship in orbit. A commander who is probably risking her career for me right now. A home far away that I have not seen in years. He smiled a little. But here, in your empire, I have only the promise I made to your mother. Is that enough? It will have to be. Lyris was quiet again. Then she reached into her clothes and pulled out a small crystal that hung around her neck. My mother gave me this, she said, before you came to her room. She told me to keep it hidden, to never let anyone know I had it. Daniel looked at the crystal. It was no bigger than his thumb, pale blue and faintly glowing. What is it? I do not know. She said it was the truth. She said when the time was right, I would know what to do with it. Daniel took the crystal carefully. It was a data storage device, he realized. The Volanthi use similar technology for their most important records. This could be important, he said. This could be what Dravith is really afraid of. What do you mean? Daniel's mind was racing now. Your mother was smart. She knew she was dying. She knew Dravith would move against you. What if she spent her final days gathering evidence? Proof of his crimes, his plans, his secrets? But what crimes? Dravith is cruel, but he has always stayed within the law. Daniel shook his head. Men like Dravith never stay within the law. They just hide their crimes better than others. Your mother was queen. She had access to information no one else could see. If she found something that could destroy him, then he would do anything to get this crystal, Lyris finished. He would kill for it, yes. A distant sound echoed through the tunnels. Boots on metal. Voices calling out in the darkness. Dravith's soldiers had found the entrance to the lower levels. Daniel put the crystal back in Lyris's hands. Keep it hidden. No matter what happens, do not let anyone take it from you. What are we going to do? We need to get out of the palace. Get to the city. If we can reach the human ship, you will be safe. The city is on the other side of the palace. We would have to go up, through the halls. They will catch us. Daniel checked his communication device. The signal was weak this deep underground, but he managed to send a short message to Commander Tran. It contained only 3 words. Need extraction now. Then we move fast, he said. We move quiet. And if we are caught, I will hold them off while you run. No, Lyris said suddenly. Her voice was stronger now, almost angry. I will not leave you. My mother trusted you. That means I trust you. We stay together. Daniel wanted to argue. She was a child. If something happened to him, she needed to survive. But he saw the determination in her eyes and knew she would not listen. Together then, he said. Let us go. They moved through the tunnels, climbing upward through ladders and narrow passages. The sounds of soldiers grew closer, then farther, then closer again. The maze of tunnels was working in their favor, confusing the search parties. But eventually, they had to leave the safety of the underground. They emerged through a hidden door into a storage room in the lower palace. From there, they crept through servant corridors toward the main gates. They almost made it. A group of soldiers appeared around the corner, their weapons raised. Daniel pushed Lyris behind him and reached for the small pistol at his hip. It was a human weapon, nothing compared to Volanthi technology, but it was all he had. Do not move, human, the leader of the soldiers said. By order of High Counselor Dravith, you are under arrest for the murder of Queen Seraphine. Murder? Daniel kept his voice steady. I did not kill the queen. The withering killed her. Everyone knows this. That is not what the evidence shows. The soldier smiled coldly. We found poison in your quarters. Human poison. You will be executed for your crime. Daniel understood now. Draveth was not just trying to take the princess. He was going to use Daniel as a scapegoat. Blame the human for the queen's death. Turn the empire against humanity. The princess saw everything, Daniel said. She knows I did not kill her mother. The princess is a traumatized child. She does not know what she saw. Now step away from her. Daniel raised his weapon. No. The soldier's smile faded. You cannot win this fight, human. Put down your weapon and surrender. Maybe I cannot win, Daniel said. But I can make sure you remember this day. I can make sure some of you do not walk away. Is Draveth worth dying for? The soldiers hesitated. They looked at each other, uncertain. In that moment of hesitation, Daniel fired. He did not aim to kill. He aimed for the lights above, shattering them and plunging the corridor into darkness. Then he grabbed Lyris and ran behind them. Chaos erupted. Soldiers shouted, weapons fired, but they could not see their targets. Daniel knew the darkness would not last long, but he only needed a few minutes. They burst through a door and into the open air of the palace courtyard. The night sky stretched above them, filled with unfamiliar stars. The gates to the city were just ahead, but between them and freedom stood 20 more soldiers. Their weapons aimed and ready. Daniel stopped. Lyris pressed against his back, trembling. There was no escape. The soldiers formed a circle around them. Their weapons hummed with deadly energy, pointed at Daniel and the small princess behind him. High Counselor Draveth walked through the line of soldiers, his silver robes flowing in the night wind. Ambassador Cole, Draveth said, his voice sweet as poison. Such trouble you have caused tonight, all for nothing. Daniel kept his body between Draveth and Lyris. The queen gave me guardianship of the princess, her dying words. By your own law, I have the right to protect her. Draveth laughed. The dying words of a sick woman, witnessed by no one of importance. That is not law. That is desperation. It was witnessed. A new voice called out. Everyone turned. From the shadows of the courtyard, old Melindra walked slowly forward. Her face was bruised, her clothes torn. They had hurt her, Daniel realized. Hurt her badly, but she had come anyway. I heard the queen speak, Melindra said. I saw her give the princess to this human. I am a senior advisor to the crown. My testimony carries weight in any court. Draveth's smile flickered. You are a foolish old woman who should have stayed hidden. I have served 3 queens, Melindra said. I have seen ambitious men come and go. They always fall in the end. You will fall too, Draveth. Silence. Draveth raised his hand, and one of the soldiers struck Melindra. She fell to the ground and did not get up. Lyris cried out and tried to run to her, but Daniel held her back. You cannot save her, he whispered. But we can still survive. We can still make this right. Draveth turned back to Daniel. Enough of this. Soldiers, take the princess. Kill the human. The soldiers moved forward. And then the sky exploded with light. A human shuttle tore through the clouds, its engine screaming. It came in fast and low, weapons firing at the ground around the soldiers, but not hitting them directly. Warning shots. The soldiers scattered, diving for cover. A voice crackled from Daniel's communication device. Cole, this is Lieutenant Kevin Park. Get to the shuttle now. We do not have much time. Daniel grabbed Lyris and ran. The shuttle was landing at the far end of the courtyard, its door already opening. A young man in a human uniform stood there, waving them forward. Behind them, Draveth was screaming orders. Shoot them down. Destroy that ship. Energy blasts flew past Daniel's head, missing him by inches. He felt one graze his arm, burning through his sleeve and into his skin. He ignored the pain and kept running. 50 meters to the shuttle. 40. 30. A blast hit Daniel in the back. He stumbled, nearly fell, but somehow kept his feet. The pain was incredible, like fire spreading through his body. but he could not stop. He could not let go of the small hand in his. 20 meters. 10. Lieutenant. Park grabbed Daniel's arm and pulled him into the shuttle. Lyris tumbled in after him. The door slammed shut as more blasts hammered the ship's hull. "Go!" Park shouted to the pilot. The shuttle lifted off, spinning wildly as it climbed into the sky. Through the window, Daniel could see the palace growing smaller. He could see Dravith standing in the courtyard, his face twisted with rage. Then the cloud swallowed them, and the palace disappeared. Daniel collapsed onto the floor of the shuttle. The pain in his back was getting worse. His vision was starting to blur. "He is hurt badly," he heard Park say. "We need to get him to the Steadfast now." "The Volanthi are scrambling fighters," the pilot replied. "We have maybe 10 minutes before they catch us." "Then make it in 5. Lyris knelt beside Daniel. Her hands pressed against his wound, trying to stop the bleeding. Her glowing eyes were filled with tears. "Do not die," she whispered. "Please do not die." "You promised." Daniel tried to smile. "Humans are hard to kill. We are stubborn that way. I am serious. You cannot die." "I know." He reached up and touched her face. "I know." The shuttle shook as it entered the upper atmosphere. Through the windows, stars became visible, cold and distant. Somewhere up there, the Steadfast was waiting. Daniel's vision was fading now. He could barely see Lyris's face above him, but he could hear her voice, speaking in her language, saying words he did not understand. It sounded like a prayer. The last thing he saw before darkness took him was the light in her eyes. Still glowing, still alive. He had kept her safe. That was all that mattered. Daniel woke to bright lights and the smell of medicine. He was lying in a bed, surrounded by beeping machines and sterile white walls. A human woman in a medical uniform stood beside him, checking monitors. "Dr. Walsh," the woman said, noticing he was awake. "Welcome back, Ambassador. You gave us quite a scare. How long?" Daniel's voice was rough and weak. 3 days. You took an energy blast to your lower spine. If we had waited another hour to treat you, you would never have walked again." She smiled slightly. "Lucky for you, Lieutenant Park is an excellent pilot." Daniel tried to sit up. Pain shot through his back and he fell back onto the pillow. "Easy," Dr. Walsh said. "You are not going anywhere for a while. You need at least 2 more weeks of treatment." "The princess, where is she?" "She is safe. She has barely left your side since we brought you aboard. She only went to eat about an hour ago." The doctor paused. "She is a remarkable child. Very brave." Daniel felt relief wash over him. She was safe. On a human ship, in human space. Dravith could not reach her here, but then he remembered the data crystal. The evidence the Queen had gathered. That changed everything. "I need to speak to Commander Tran," he said. "Immediately." "Ambassador, you need rest." "Doctor, if I do not speak to the commander right now, everything we went through will be for nothing. Please." Dr. Walsh studied his face for a moment. Then she nodded and pressed a button on the wall. A few minutes later, Commander Lisa Tran walked into the medical bay. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and gray, streaking her black hair. Her uniform was crisp and perfect, despite the chaos of recent days. "You look terrible," she said. "I feel worse." "Thank you for sending the shuttle. I disobeyed about a dozen orders to do it. My career is probably over." She shrugged. "But you are alive. The princess is alive. I can live with the consequences." Daniel reached out and took her hand. "There is something you need to see. The princess has a data crystal. A mother gave it to her before she died. I think it contains evidence against Dravith. Something big." Lisa's eyes widened. "How big?" "I do not know yet." But the Queen was afraid, not just for her daughter, but for the whole empire. She knew something terrible. "We need to find out what." Lisa nodded slowly. I will have our tech team take a look. If there is anything on that crystal that can help us, we will find it. And the princess? She is under the protection of the Terran Alliance now. Draveth cannot touch her here. Lisa paused. But Daniel, you need to understand something. The Volanthi are calling you a murderer. They are demanding your return for trial. If we do not find evidence to clear your name, there will be war between our species. Daniel closed his eyes. The weight of everything pressed down on him. A dying queen, a frightened child, an empire on the edge of collapse. And somehow, a human named Daniel Cole was at the center of it all. Then we better find that evidence, he said. Yes, Lisa agreed. We better. The data crystal held more than anyone expected. Queen Seraphine had spent her final months gathering evidence in secret. Files, recordings, documents that proved what many had suspected, but none could prove. High Counselor Draveth had not simply wanted the throne. He had created the path to get there. The withering was not natural. It was a bioweapon, designed in a secret laboratory funded by Dravi's family. It was meant to kill only the royal bloodline, to wipe out the queen and her heirs while leaving Draveth's people untouched. But something went wrong. The disease mutated. It spread beyond control, killing millions of innocent Volanthi. Draveth had murdered his own people. All for power. Commander Tran transmitted the evidence to every Volanthi world simultaneously. There was no way to hide it, no way to deny it. Within hours, the Empire was in chaos. Draveth tried to run. He gathered his loyal soldiers and fled to the outer systems, hoping to escape justice. But the Volanthi people had seen the truth. Those who had followed him now turned against him. Those who had feared him now hunted him. Within 3 weeks, Draveth was captured. Within 3 months, he was executed for crimes against the Empire and its people. But the damage was done. Millions were dead. The Empire was shattered. And a young princess had lost everything. Daniel spent 2 months recovering from his wounds. Dr. Walsh was patient and skilled, but some damage could not be fully healed. He would walk with a limp for the rest of his life. A small price, he thought, for keeping his promise. During those months, Princess Lyris never left the ship. She had nowhere else to go. Her homeworld was in chaos, her people divided between grief and rage. She was their rightful queen, but she was also just a child. A child who had watched her mother die, who had been hunted through the halls of her own palace, who had seen the truth of what evil could do. Daniel and Lyris spent many hours together. He taught her about humanity, about Earth, about the strange customs of a species that had only recently reached the stars. She taught him about Volanthi history, about the great queens who had come before her mother, about the dreams she had once had for her future. Slowly, the light returned to her eyes. 1 year after the queen's death, the Volanthi High Council sent a message to the Steadfast. The Empire had stabilized. Draveth's supporters had been removed from power. A new government had been formed, guided by advisors loyal to the old queen's memory. They were ready for Princess Lyris to come home. Human medical researchers had done something remarkable during that year. Using the data from the queen's crystal, they had developed a treatment for the withering. It was not a cure, but it stopped the disease from spreading. It gave the Volanthi hope. It saved millions of lives. Humanity had given the Volanthi the greatest gift possible. And in return, the Volanthi offered peace and friendship between their peoples. When the Steadfast entered orbit around Volanthi Prime, the entire population was watching. Ships filled the sky, their lights forming patterns of welcome. On the surface, crowds gathered in every city, waiting to see their princess return. Daniel stood beside Lyris on the observation deck, looking down at the planet below. "Are you ready?" he asked. Lyris took a deep breath. "No, but I do not think anyone is ever ready to be queen." You will be a good one. Your mother knew that. That is why she fought so hard to protect you. She trusted you to protect me. She saw something in you that I do not think even you understand." Daniel shook his head. "I am just a human. I did what anyone would do." "No." Lyris turned to face him. She was taller now, older. 14 cycles instead of 12. Still young, but no longer a child. "What you did, no one else would do. Not for a stranger. Not for someone different from them. That is what makes humans special. You protect those who are not your own." Daniel did not know what to say. He had never thought of it that way. Lyris reached out and took his hand, just as she had done on that terrible night in her mother's chambers. "I am scared," she admitted. "I am going to rule an empire, and I have no idea what I am doing. Neither did your mother when she started. Neither does any leader. You learn as you go. Will you stay with me?" Daniel felt his heart tighten. He had thought about this moment for months. He knew he could not stay forever. He was human. His lifespan was short compared to the Volanthi. He would grow old and die while Lyris was still young. But he also knew he could not abandon her. "Not now. Not yet. I will stay as long as you need me," he said. "I am your guardian. That does not end just because you become queen." Lyris smiled. It was the first real smile he had seen from her since her mother died. The coronation ceremony was held in the great hall of the palace. Thousands of Volanthi filled the room, their silver skin shining in the light of 100 chandeliers. Representatives from a dozen alien species stood among them, watching as history was made. And there, in the front row, stood a small group of humans. Commander Tran, Lieutenant Park, Dr. Walsh, and others from the Steadfast. They had been given places of honor, guests of the new queen herself. Lyris walked to the throne and turned to face her people. She was dressed in the traditional robes of the Volanthi monarchy, her silver hair arranged in the ancient style. She looked like a queen. She looked like her mother. "My people," she said, her voice carrying through the hall. "1 year ago, I lost my mother. I lost my home. I lost everything I thought I knew. But I found something new. Something I never expected." She looked at Daniel, standing among the humans. "I found family." A murmur ran through the crowd. Family was a sacred word in the Volanthi language. It was not used lightly. This human, Daniel Cole, was given a task by my dying mother. Protect me. Keep me safe. It was an impossible task. He had no power, no army, no weapons. He had only his word and his will. And yet, he did the impossible. He saved my life. He saved our empire. She stepped down from the throne and walked through the crowd. The Volanthi parted before her, making a path to where Daniel stood. She stopped in front of him. In the language of humans, there is a word we do not have. A word for someone who is not your blood, but is still your family. Someone who chooses to love you, to protect you, to stand with you through all things. Daniel felt tears in his eyes. He tried to blink them away, but they came anyway. "Daniel Cole," Lyris said, her voice clear and strong. "You are my family. Not by blood, not by law, but by choice. The choice you made when you held my hand in the darkness. The choice you made when you carried me through fire. The choice you make now, standing here beside me." She took his hand and raised it high. "Let all who see remember this. Let all who hear know this truth. Humans are not primitive. Humans are not weak. Humans are not less than us. They are the ones who protect strangers. They are the ones who keep promises. They are the ones who love children not their own." She turned back to her throne, still holding Daniel's hand. "And as long as I am queen, they will be our allies. Our friends. Our family." The hall erupted in cheers. Volanthi and human voices mixed together, filling the ancient room with sound. Daniel stood beside the throne, his hands still in the grip of a princess who had become a queen. He thought about the dying words of her mother, those incomplete words that had haunted him for a year. Take care, oh. He understood now. The queen had not been saying, take care of her. She had been saying something more, something deeper. Take care of her as your own. And he had. He always would. The promise was kept.